Coming up on Network Africa, Nigeria asked Taiwan to move its business office from the nation's capital Abuja to Lagos in support of the One China policy. Cote d'Ivoire's president trims his cabinet in a modest reshuffle. And young boxers in Libya dream big as the sport returns back to the country. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Temitope Fagbemi. China has praised Nigeria for requesting that Taiwan relocates its representative office out of the capital, Abuja. Nigerian Foreign Minister Jeffrey Onyema met China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Abuja yesterday and pled to stick to Beijing's One China policy that Taiwan is part of China. But Taiwan is displeased with this move, saying the Nigerian government has been pressured by China to isolate it, a claim Nigeria denies.
Taiwan has objected to a request to relocate its representative office from Abuja to Lagos, a request Taipei sees as more pressure by China to isolate it. Nigeria has never established a diplomatic relationship with us, but Nigeria and mainland China held a joint news conference in capital city of Nigeria on January the 11th, saying they will not accept Taiwan as a country based on the so-called One China policy and will stop diplomatic relations with us, which is an attempt to confuse the international community. Beijing regards Taiwan as a renegade province ineligible for state-to-state relations and to be taken back by force if necessary, especially if it makes moves towards independence. Taiwan has no diplomatic ties with Nigeria, but has an office for handling business affairs in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital territory. However, the Nigerian government says since Lagos is regarded as the commercial capital of the country, then Taiwan's office should be in Lagos and not Abuja. But Taiwan says Nigeria should reconsider the issue, as both sides have an understanding based on reciprocity, under which Nigeria runs a trade office in Taiwan's capital, Taipei. Nigerian officials met their Chinese counterparts in Abuja on Wednesday and pledged to stick to Beijing's One China policy that Taiwan is a part of China. Taiwan has 21 formal allies, only 2 in Africa. Last month, former African ally Sao Tome and Principe switched its diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to China.
Well, let's get more on this story from a career diplomat, Ambassador Dapo Fafora, who joins us live on the program. You're welcome to the program, Ambassador.
Yes, I think Nigeria took the right decision in asking the trade office of Taiwan to move to Lagos. But I'm mystified as to when actually Nigeria decided to allow Taiwan to open a trade office in Lagos. Because we have always maintained a One China policy. But from 1971 or 73, when we supported China addition to the UN, we've always supported that policy. So I don't know when exactly Nigeria decided to allow Taiwan to open that office in Lagos. And the minister was also reported as being mystified. He said himself didn't know when they decided that Taiwan should open a trade office in Lagos. So I think we've taken the right decision now. We have only one China policy. We recognize only China. We don't recognize Taiwan. We have nothing to do with Taiwan.
Now, Ambassador, Nigeria, like you said, has always supported the One China. Ambassador, if you can hear me, Nigeria has always supported the One China policy, even though Taiwan had its office in Abuja. So why is it asking Taiwan to move now? What's causing this at this point?
Well, if you maintain with one China policy, you cannot recognize two China. China regards Taiwan as a relative province of China. I think it was a mistake in the first place to have allowed Taiwan to open an office in Abuja. It was a mistake. And I was surprised that the minister said himself didn't know when this happened. In other words, it was not done in the open. It's a grave error. And as China has, in the last few years, given Nigeria a lot of financial assistance, including about 40 or 50 billion US dollars loan. So I think they've done the right thing now by asking Taiwan. As a matter of personally, I would prefer that the government should ask Taiwan to leave completely and not simply relocate to Lagos. That would be the best thing to do. It's a model. Something went wrong somewhere.
Now, Taiwan says Nigeria took this decision because it was being pressured by China to isolate it. Do you agree with this, Ambassador?
What?
Taiwan says the reason why Nigeria is asking it to move its office from Abuja to Lagos is because Nigeria is being pressured by China. What do you say about this?
Well, no, whether or not Nigeria was under pressure, that's the right thing to do, and the Chinese have every right to complain. But we have full diplomatic relations with China and not Taiwan. And by allowing Taiwan to open up an office in Abuja, we are contravening so many international decisions. The UN passed a resolution to that effect. We co-sponsor of China's admission to the United Nations. So it's a terrible model. It was a mistake, and now that we put it right, we should end there.
Now, finally, Taiwan has asked Nigeria to reconsider the issue, as Nigeria also has a trade office in Taipei. Now, is it possible that Taiwan might retaliate by closing the Nigerian office in Taiwan?
Of course, if we cut off diplomatic ties completely with Taiwan, then they will also have the right to ask if we have an office in Taipei. I'm not aware of that, but it is possible that it was done on a reciprocal basis. So if we have a trade office in Taipei, then they too will have the right to ask us to leave. Quite frankly, I don't see why we should have an office in Taipei. We can trade with Taiwan without having an office in Taipei, or the Taiwanese having an office in Lagos. We've always been trading with them. International law does not forbid that, but we cannot, on the one hand, say we recognize one China policy and then establish diplomatic relations with Taiwan clandestinely.
Ambassador Dapo Fafura, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
All right.
Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has urged the federal government to show stronger support for farmers and end hunger in the country by 2030. The former president also listed other important areas as recommended in a Zero Hunger Strategic Review report launched in Abuja to facilitate food security. This program, according to Chief Obasanjo, is not just another government initiative, but one that will involve intense monitoring of states to ensure rapid productivity in agriculture. Our correspondent, Gloria Ume-Izuke, reports.
In the last few years, Nigeria has developed a reputation for evolving bold ideas to boost agriculture in the country, many of which have ended as mere paper talk. To put an end to this trend, former President Olusegun Obasanjo chaired the development of a Zero Hunger Strategic Review report that the federal government would need to address the reality of increasing hunger by 2030.
The key to achieving zero hunger depends on implementation and our collective will. There must be strong support for farmers at all levels and for producers or producers' organizations. And governments must additionally provide the right policies, regulations, and incentives. We must address the humanitarian situation in the Northeast and put into place holistic development and growth solutions that will make it difficult for insurrections to take roots.
Working with the private sector to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2 and find effective ways to beat poverty and malnutrition, the Minister of Health says the country stands to lose over 5 million children to malnutrition in the northeast.
The sad irony is that these regions provide the bulk of the food that we eat in this country. How is it that the regions that produce the food is the region with the highest number of children with malnutrition? Government has to do the needful to ensure that we tackle not only malnutrition, but food insecurity.
In each state, the governor needs to declare at least 2 crops and 1 livestock that will be the priority for them, for their state. It could be more than 2 crops, it could be more than 1 livestock.
The promoters say the 60-page Zero Hunger Roadmap document, which has 4 states as pilot to monitor agricultural productivity, will be intensely monitored every 6 months. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Televisions.
The Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of Congo has appealed to the UN Security Council to support a political agreement intended to prevent bloodshed over delayed elections. The New Year's Eve's deal, mediated by the Church, calls for the appointment of a new Prime Minister and the appointment of a transitional body to pave the way to elections in December 2017. President Joseph Kabila stays on as head of state during this transitional period. He had been due to stand down after 2 terms in office last month, but elections could not be organized in time as the electoral roll was not ready. Backers of the agreement see it as a way of stopping a flare-up in violence, as it is supported by the main opposition. However, some allies of President Kabila are angered by it, with one senior lawmaker, Sami Badimbaga, who was recently appointed Prime Minister under an earlier agreement with smaller opposition parties, rejecting the deal altogether. An opposition candidate in last year's presidential election in Congo-Brazzaville, Andre Okumbi-Salisa, has been arrested in the capital, Brazzaville. He is accused of jeopardizing national security. Reports say Mr. Salisa, a former prime minister, was placed under house arrest 3 months after the March 2016 presidential election, but he managed to escape and he went into hiding. Another presidential candidate, General Jean-Marie Makoko, who has been in custody since June, has also been charged with breaching national security and the illegal possession of weapons. Congo-Brazzaville has been on edge since the referendum last year ended a 2-term limit on presidential mandates. Mr. Sassou Nguesso has been in power since 1979, except for a 5-year period after losing elections in 1992. Still talking politics, Cote d'Ivoire's President Alassane Ouattara has named a new and smaller government team with few changes to top position. The finance and budget ministers, as well as the agriculture minister, held on to their jobs. But Thierry Tano, the former CEO of Pan-African Ecobank, replaced Adama Tungara as energy minister. Amadou Kone takes over as transport minister from Gassou Touré, while trade minister Jean-Louis Billon also lost his post. Despite a 2-day mutiny at the weekend that led to the dismissal of the heads of the army and other security chiefs, Defense Minister Alain Richard Dunwahi and Interior Minister Hamen Bakayoko both kept their jobs. The new cabinet has 28 ministers and a Secretary of State, compared with 35 posts previously. It includes 7 new members. 6 doctors from the Kenyan Doctors Union have been given a 1-month suspended sentence for refusing to call off the ongoing strike which has paralyzed operations in public hospitals. The Employment and Labor Relations Court ordered the union to end the strike and finalize negotiations with the government within the next 2 weeks. Several attempts to end the strike have failed as the doctors want the full implementation of an agreement signed in 2013 to improve the doctors' pay and working conditions. But the judge ruled that if the officials do not heed to the order, they will be jailed for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, India has rejected a request from Kenya to hire Indian doctors to address the ongoing crisis in its health sector. Indian officials said the country is not comfortable sending its health workers as it does not want to antagonize Kenyans. If a deal had been struck, the Indian doctors would have been offered 200,000 Kenyan shillings. Now that's about $1,900 a month for their services. Currently, an entry-level doctor in Kenya earns $380 a month. Thousands of Kenyans travel to India for specialized treatment every year, and many HIV patients in Kenya depend on Indian-made generic antiretroviral drugs. Still to come on Network Africa. Young boxers in Libya dream big as the sport returns back to the country. Please stay with us.